Oh my god, brr. It's fall. Let's all pretend it's October. Let's pretend it's cold outside, even though it doesn't get cold outside in October here in the valley, because what the fuck? On the upside, we live really close to the island, so... Okay, anyone hungry? So this girl says that her family and her moved into this house in Mexico, and it was one of those houses that shared a wall with the neighbor. So any little sound that they would make, you would hear, and vice versa. Every night, almost like around the same time, they would hear a baby crying, and it became such a frequent thing that every time they would hear the baby cry, they'd be like, oh, there goes the baby crying again. At this point, they hadn't met their neighbors just yet. They didn't, I mean, obviously they knew they had a baby, but they didn't know if they had other kids as well. She was the oldest of her siblings, so it was her, a brother, and a little sister. So one day when she's taking care of her siblings and her parents are working, she noticed that the neighbors were outside and the kids were playing. So she's like, hey, let's go outside and play with them and get to know them since we live right next to them. So she's out there, and they had kids similar to her siblings in age. And when she started talking to the oldest there, she said that she's like, hey, where's your baby? Can we meet her? We do hear her like across the wall. We hear her crying sometimes. And the neighbor looks at her like, no, we don't have a baby. And she's like, what? No, like we hear the baby crying. And her neighbor's like, okay, I'm gonna tell you, but don't freak out. A baby did pass away in your apartment, and I promise you that we do not have a baby, but sometimes we do hear the baby sounds, and it's coming from your apartment, not from ours. So she has no idea what to make of it, because she's like, what if they're just joking around or like pranking me? Because again, this is the first time that they meet. And she waited for her mom and dad to come home, and she tells them what the neighbor said. She tells them that they didn't have a baby, and that they knew that a baby had passed away in their apartment, so there was never a baby crying on the other side of the wall. Her mom also thought the same. She's like, oh, they're just playing a prank on you. We clearly hear that baby through the wall. So some time passes. They still sometimes hear the baby, and there is a night where it was basically her job as, you know, the eldest daughter to tuck her siblings into bed. And she says that she was in her siblings' bedrooms putting them to bed, reading them a book. Sometimes she would sing to them as well. And that's what she was doing that night with the door closed. And as she's reading them a book, the dad walks into the room like so urgently, and he's like, what's wrong? What's going on? She's looking at him like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I heard somebody crying, like they got hurt. And she's like, no, look at us. They're laying in bed like nothing's wrong. And she says that she could tell by the look in her dad's face where he was like, fuck. This place is haunted, and I heard a kid crying. He thought it was his kids because it was definitely coming from inside the apartment. Time would pass, and they would continue to hear these sounds where the parents were like, oh shit, something's wrong, because they thought that their kids were crying like they had gotten into accidents inside the house or something. It got so bad that the bedrooms for mom and dad were right across from each other. The parents moved their bed right in front of the door and did the same thing to the siblings' bed. They couldn't sleep with the doors closed anymore. That way, if they heard something, they could just look across the hall and see their kids asleep. Like, it got to that point where like they were hearing all these sounds in the room, and they just wanted to make sure it wasn't the kids. But obviously, that is not the way that you should be living. So eventually, they did move out of that place because of how bad it was. All those cries of a baby and them thinking it was the neighbor, and indeed, it was never the neighbor. The neighbor did not have a baby. I feel like I'd be freaking out too. Like, imagine like just being woken up, hearing a cry, thinking it's your kid, and you go in there and it's like, there's no one there, but you clearly heard somebody crying. I would have moved out too, but what do you guys think? The following stories are definitely not paranormal, but in my opinion, scarier. My friend told me about something that happened to her when she was younger, about 8 or 9. She was walking home from school and got her key out to let herself into the house. Her single mom worked and came home later on the weekdays. As she reached up to put the key in the door, her mom opened it in a nightgown, having left home sick. Instead of greeting her, she looked straight past my friend and immediately said, "Who are you?" My friend turned around, and a man in a long coat hurried back down the path and down the street. Being sick that day potentially saved her daughter from something potentially horrible happening to her. People are scary. Was talking to someone who was the first on scene to the Virginia Tech massacre. He told me that although the sight of dead bodies was disturbing, what really stayed with him was the sound of the cell phones ringing from people trying to contact them. That is so fucked up. When I was 13, my dad was taken to the hospital, my mother joined him, leaving me in the house alone, sleeping. When they came back, they noticed handprints all on the downstairs window and snow trodden in the porch. They searched the house and nobody was there. The next day, we found out our next door neighbor was murdered. I know it's not that scary, but when I think about how close I came to possibly being murdered, or worse, it sends chills down my spine. Imagine you had a friend who could control duendes. Would you be scared? Would you continue to be their friend? Or would you ask them to have the duendes do something for you? What would I have the duendes do for me though? No, I don't want to fuck with that. So this girl has a friend, and one day they're hanging out, and out of nowhere her friend was like, oh, I have some kiddos. And she was like, kiddos? Like, what do you mean? Because she knew her friend did not have children. She didn't understand her very well, but when she's like, what do you mean you have kiddos? This girl brings out a little figurine. She said it looked like a little old man in a hood and just like colored clothing. She thought it was really weird, and that's when her friend was like, they're duendes. She explains that the figurines were just almost like their home where they come back into, and that if she brought these little figurines with her, the duendes could go anywhere with her as well. Her friend then tells her that this is the way that she could travel with the duendes. For example, she goes hiking, she goes into a forest, and by her bringing the figurines, she allows the duendes to also go into this forest, go into a hike with her. Her friend also tells her that anytime she goes out, she has to bring the duendes with her because she says the duendes get mad if she leaves them at home. She listens to her friend and she doesn't really judge her because she's like, well, everybody has their beliefs, you know, everybody does whatever they want, whatever. So time goes on, and you know, she still sees her friend. They always have conversations about the duendes, and her friend continues to tell her, well, the duendes are very like pranksters. Sometimes they take items from your home. So when she hears that, she's like, wait, I recently lost a ring, and this ring is very precious to me. And she tells her friend, well, I don't know if maybe you or maybe your duendes could tell me where this ring is at, because by this point she had been looking for that ring for a minute. And her friend is like, well, would you give me permission to come over to your house so that I can see if maybe, you know, there's something there? When her friend comes over to her house, like steps into the door, the threshold, she tells her, you know what? Back there, you have 4 duendes. And at this point, she's a little bit scared because she's like, what do you mean? And her friend is like, I can see them, I could feel them, I could sense them. So she's like, can I go back there and check? And she lets her go back there. And she hears where her friend is like, kiddos, are you guys back there? And she, almost like she was talking to children. When she returns, she was like, yeah, there's 4 duendes back there and they're with your small dog. And she explains that she starts to think about her dog. She's like, oh my gosh, like some nights I hear my dog crying, and in my head I'm just thinking, oh, she wants to go out and play, but I'm not gonna let her out. Her friend tells her that the duendes are the ones that are messing with her little dog. Her friend then asks her, do you want the duendes to stay here with you? And she was like, fuck, I'm scared right now. Like, what do you mean for them to stay here? And she's like, well, I can take them with me if you want. And she's like, yes, take the duendes with you. Take them with you. Like, please, go ahead. And when she said that, she explains that her friend was like, kiddos, can you come over here? She's not prepared to take care of you. So if you come with me, I can love you. I'll take care of you guys. You'll have a good life with me. I don't want you to get mad at her. It's not that she wants to kick you out, but she's not prepared on how to take care of you. Bitch, take them. Now here's the really fucking weird part, okay? She said that this entire time her husband was also there with her, listening to her friend talking to like nothing, because they're not seeing anything. But the fact that she knew that something had been messing with her dog, you know, they were both a little bit shocked. However, the moment that the lady's like, okay, come on, get into my purse, to the duendes, because she's about to take them home, she says that her and her husband hear 4 sounds really close to that purse. Like almost if you have grabbed a little rock and just put it into a purse, they heard that sound 4 times. Her husband's looking at her like, did you just hear that? Like, they're both looking at each other like, what the fuck? Like, we just heard, she said, duendes, get into the bag. They heard 4 little sounds into that bag. Obviously scared, obviously what the fuck, right? However, she's like, whoa, wait, what about my ring? She's like, this is why you guys are here. Where's my ring? And the friend's like, oh my gosh, yes, I completely forgot. Okay, she opens her bag. She's talking into the bag because again, the duendes are in there, and she tells them, okay guys, you have 5 minutes. You need to return the ring to her. You only have 5 minutes, so you better go and get that ring. Apparently duendes are out there getting the ring, right? 5 minutes pass. The friend is like, okay guys, you have to come back again. They hear those 4 sounds into that purse. She says that her friend leaves, and her husband like, what the F just happened? Like, they were shocked. They were like, well, I don't see the ring anywhere, so whatever. If this is even real, like, I guess at least she took the duendes with her. The following morning, she says that she's always the first one to wake up, and she was about to go downstairs to make a coffee. When she gets to the last step, she sees that ring that had been missing. This couldn't have happened this easily, because when she did lose that ring, she said the ring, I think, was given to her by her grandmother, so that ring meant a lot. She didn't want to lose that ring and not find it. So when it was lost, her and her mom, they had moved like the refrigerator, they moved sofas. They really wanted to find this ring, and it was never anywhere. So the fact that the following day she sees it in that front step was insane. She immediately grabs her phone, takes a picture of the ring on that step, and sends it to the friend, the one who like took her for duendes, and her friend responded like, I told you they had taken your ring. She starts explaining that for a very long time she always thought that duendes were bad beings, that she was always very terrified on the topic. But after this happened to her, because this is the very first thing that had ever happened to her that had to do with duendes, she also realized that they are also for good, like they can do some good things as well, which is crazy because I feel like we've all heard stories of them taking like keys and like random things, and there's some people who have just very respectfully asked them to bring them back, and then the following day or like in a few days they end up finding whatever had been lost. But what do you guys think? Would you ask your friend if she can control duendes to find something for you, or would you just like not want to mess with this at all? Can someone stand behind me and hold my earlobes like this? Because look at how cute these are. I have a fat ass earlobe, and look at it. It does whatever it wants. Who says only grandma has these candies? They're so cute, right? Have you ever heard of somebody confronting La Llorona several times? Or what about if you have confronted La Llorona and you were a kid and didn't even realize it? Nah, bitch, that sounds like something I would remember. So Julio as a kid loved spending time with his grandmother at her home all the time. The days that he spent at his grandmother's home were filled with adventures. Grandma never gave him like restrictions regarding the TV or games or anything like that. And no, it wasn't because grandma was irresponsible. It was just that every time they would sit down during the day to watch TV or for him to play a game, she would just accidentally fall asleep. He enjoyed spending time with his grandmother though, because she would always be up for whatever he wanted to do. If they wanted to go to the garden, or if they wanted to go and play, or if they wanted to go inside to watch TV, the grandmother was always there right by his side. He says that his fondest memories with her would be at nighttime too, because she would either sing to him or read him stories just so he could fall asleep. So here's the thing. As a kid, he never saw like what his grandma did as weird. It was only until he grew as an adult and started getting into the paranormal where he started thinking about those memories and saying, wait, that was a little bit strange. Why wouldn't she go to sleep at night, but she would go to sleep during the day? There was also other things that she would do that now as an adult, he was like, wait, why would she do that? Every night that he would spend with his grandmother where she would be putting him to bed, he would always hear really strange sounds, almost like if somebody was crying very far away. And any time that he would ask his grandmother like, hey, what's that sound? It sounds weird. She would literally get on the bed with him, hug him, sing to him, close all the windows and try to put him to bed, telling him it's nothing, it's the cats, it's the dogs outside, don't worry about it. He says that she would go as far as to close and lock that bedroom door, and she would start singing to him really loud. She would also be like, just go to sleep already. He'd be like, but grandma, it sounds like somebody's crying outside. And she's like, it's a cat, it's just a cat, don't worry about it. Some nights he'd be like, it's not the cats or the dogs, you can hear the dogs barking at whatever's crying out there. She'd be like, no, it's just the animals out there, you don't worry about it and go to sleep. Regardless of what happened or what he heard in his grandmother's home, every time he would fall asleep, she would do the same thing. She would get the blanket, put it all the way up to his neck, and then she would pull one of his arms out and make him like pray and bless himself before going to bed. Then she would do the same to him and the bed that he would sleep on, saying the following: Bendice esta cama de campo a campo, que no se le arrime ni cosa mala ni cosa de espanto. Good luck translating that, Letty. bless this bed from here to there. Don't let anything negative come or anything spooky, which does not rhyme in English, okay? Let me live. I'm trying, but that's essentially what she said. You're welcome. That is the prayer that the grandmother would always do when he would spend the night, no matter what happened, getting ready for him to go to bed. And to be honest, he explains that those moments with his grandmother were moments so like precious. He loved them. He never saw them as anything negative. He enjoyed anytime she would pray over him or force him to pray, because obviously now as an adult, that's something that stayed with him and he always does before bed. So now he's an adult and he's remembering all those times and he's realizing something. And it kind of does scare him a little bit. Grandma was always too awake at night, but very tired during the day. He also remembers something that he would have never even noticed as a kid, and it was that his grandmother always seemed really scared at nighttime. He would always believe her when she would say nothing is out there. However, now as an adult, he would remember that any time that she would pray over him, her hand was always shaky. Like, her hand was never shaky during the day, she never seemed that way, so why was she so scared at nighttime? He kept thinking about all these like weird things, and he decided that he couldn't just stay with that curiosity. He was gonna go to his parents' house and ask them, like, was there something wrong with grandmother? What was going on? There was definitely something odd about the nighttime ritual. Unfortunately, the grandmother is already passed, so he can't go and ask her anything. So he went over to his parents' house and he asked them. He asked them, was there anything weird about grandmother's house? Like, is there anything strange about it? And very casually, the dad was like, oh yeah, the day after she passed away, we sold that house immediately. And he was like, well, why? Why were you in such a rush to sell that house? And the father was like, well, because La Llorona was always around that house. Your grandmother just didn't want to sell that house because it was a gift from your grandfather. Every time you would beg us to go over to grandmother's house, she would beg us to come and get you when the nighttime came because she said it was too dangerous, but you didn't want to leave her. You wanted to stay the nights with her. The grandmother went as far as to tell him, hey, you're putting him at risk. I don't want anything to happen to him. But he loved his grandmother so much, he always wanted to stay there. The grandmother would tell his parents that he would hear La Llorona, but that she would lie to him and be like, it's the dogs, it's the cat, it's nothing for you to worry about, just go to sleep. They even told him that she would close the window to the bedroom where he would sleep, because every time she would go to the window to like look outside, she was always outside in that patio where the window was, and when she would be looking, she would start walking closer and closer to the window. And then the parents were like, you don't remember? Every time you would come back from grandmother's house, you would be like, Mom, Dad, every night people will be knocking on the window at grandma's house. In the moment where his parents are telling him, he's like, oh my god, I do remember that. And then he like felt his stomach drop, because he's like, that happened like more than a couple of times, and he had no idea that the entire time he was in the presence of La Llorona. Only he didn't remember. He just thought that they were cats and dogs, because his precious grandmother just didn't want her grandson to be in danger or to be afraid. The fact that his grandmother like never let him be afraid or even told him anything. She was afraid herself, but she still protected him. Like, bitch, don't cry, what the fuck? Anyway, what do you guys think? La Llorona should have been afraid of the grandmother, that's for sure. Sleep talkers, sleepwalkers, you guys are fucking scary. And if you don't believe me, listen to this story. And don't be making fun of my troll's hair, okay? It's uncontrollable right now. They're having a bad hair. You're disappearing, babe. Come back. My grandfather's second wife was a sleepwalker, the kind that would get out of bed and do things like make a sandwich in the kitchen. My grandfather became used to it, and whenever he woke up in the middle of the night and she wasn't in bed beside him, he would find her and gently lead her back to bed without waking her up, just as he had been advised. But one night, he wakes up and she isn't laying in bed, but instead sitting on the edge of the bed, her back turned to him. He calls her name to ask what's wrong, but she doesn't answer, and he realizes she must be asleep. He can tell that she's doing something, holding something in her lap, but he can't see what it is. He sits up, looks over her shoulder, and sees what she's doing still in her sleep, loading his revolver. Excuse the fuck out of me, what do you mean? Grandpa's second wife has got to go, because what the... It went from sandwiches to No! I would never sleep in peace again. Like, besties, are we gonna tie her up or what? Because there's no way I would get sleep after that. Anyway, what do you guys think? Remember that picture maybe a week or two ago where I'm like, I need to share this picture with you so I can get it out of my phone because it's so fucking scary? Yeah, well, the one I'm about to show you makes that one seem laughable. Just wait. And if I had to see it, so do you. So don't even go anywhere else. Do not swipe away. You need to see this. I'm so scared. You can see it now. You can see it. Okay, so this happened in Guanajuato. Obviously, I got this story from Relatos Nocturnos. If you want to go see the original story, it's in Spanish, so go look it up. But this lady was taking a picture because her husband travels for work. She was just taking a cute little picture to send him, not realizing what the fuck was up there. So apparently she lives with her aunt and uncle, and she does have 2 kids. And there's been times where her kids do not want to cross from the upstairs to the downstairs because they would have to go through this window. She says that her aunt and her uncle would hear as if somebody was walking through those stairs, but there was nobody ever there. And if you haven't seen it, this thing, yeah, not a person who isn't supposed to be there. They don't know who it is, but they know that the kids were terrified of crossing by these windows. You cannot tell me that does not look so fucking evil. Closer look just for you. This is the last picture that I'm gonna show you because honestly I'm terrified, and I just like, why do I have to be on the screen with it? Why can't you guys be on the screen with it too? Whatever that thing is, I just feel like it's evil, but let's just all be thankful that it is on the outside of that window, right? Or is it? Let me know in the comments what you think. Sleep paralysis stories scare me so much, and I was looking at my inbox this weekend and I happened to see someone's message and she let me share the story with you guys, so here we go. Oh, I will be putting her name in the caption as well in case you guys have any follow-up questions. And yes, these are eyeballs. Hello, I love your content. Thank you. I wanted to share my most terrifying sleep paralysis experience with you, and you can share it if you'd like. I've had many episodes and only 2 really stand out. So it was late 2009 and I was pregnant with my youngest. I was home alone. A little back info, I went into early labor at 6 months, so I was placed on bed rest for the remainder of my pregnancy. That's even scarier that she was pregnant. I mean pregnant while all this happened, not that it's scary that she's pregnant. Oh my god, you know what I mean. So my son's father had a key to my house to come check on me and things like that. I was woken from my sleep by the sound of my front door opening. There was a security door and a wooden door. I just lay there listening because only one person had the key, so I wasn't alarmed. I should also mention that I was on my stomach kind of, so my back was to my bedroom door. I heard the bedroom door open and shut as well, then felt someone sit on the foot of my bed. Thinking it was my boyfriend at the time, I tried to turn over and speak, but I couldn't do either. I struggled for what seemed like an eternity, and then I calmed myself and started saying the Lord's Prayer in my head. Side note, when I've had sleep paralysis, I can't even think of any prayers. Like, is something wrong with me? By the time I finished, I could move. I got up and walked to the front of my house and no one was there. All the doors up there were still locked, and when I called him, he said that he was just leaving his second job. Needless to say, every light in my house was on and I had turned the TV to Cartoon Network. Honestly, I'd do the same. I'd probably wait in my car for him, I'm not gonna lie. Sleep paralysis stories are so scary. Can you imagine? She's already vulnerable. Like, she's pregnant, she had gone into early labor, she's bedridden, and for this to happen is so messed up. But what do you guys think about it? Has this ever happened to you before? Also, if you send me a story, let me know in the comments so I can go look for it. I have over 1,000 messages in my inbox, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you so much, but not all of them are stories, so sometimes I'm like looking through and I can't find anything because it's like you guys send me lives or like stickers and stuff like that, which is great, but it makes it so hard for me to find stories. So if you send me a story, leave a comment and I'm gonna go look for it. Anyways, I love you so much. Bye bye. Today's story is about El Puente de los Duendes in Puebla, Mexico. Translation: the Bridge of the Duendes in Puebla, Mexico. This bridge is real. A lot of people have not gone to the bridge. Obviously, people can go if they want to. I've seen pictures of people capturing what they think is a duende in them, which is creepy. And just so you can get an idea, this is the actual Puente de los Duendes. So yeah, we'll make sure we won't go there. So the story goes, or I should say the legend goes, because it's because of the the story I'm about to tell you, where people have been warned to like never go to this bridge. Kids who grow up in the area are warned to never go to that bridge. People claim that people who go there and get taken by the duendes don't come back. They say that the duendes are very bad and that they will drag people down to their bridge. And thanks to the one and only person who was able to escape is why we know what we know about this bridge. So there was this guy who had just left a party and he was really drunk. Because he was so cold at nighttime, he decided that before he went home, he was gonna go and get some wood so that he could start a fire. The only wood that he was able to get was really close to the bridge. Because of the stories that he had heard about the bridge and the duendes, he decided to get the wood really quickly and head back home. So as he turned around with the wood that he was able to get to go back home, he saw this really big chicken. He thought to himself, well, this chicken couldn't belong to anybody because everybody who has chickens would always have them in cages. He decided that he wanted to get that chicken so that he could take it home and eat it. However, when he would try to get the chicken, even though the chicken seemed to be moving very slowly, he wasn't able to capture it. And because he really wanted to eat that chicken, it was a big chicken, he really wanted to feed himself, he's like, I'm not giving up, I'm gonna get that chicken. He kept following this chicken until he realized that the chicken had stopped right in the middle of the bridge, and he realized that he was standing on one end of the bridge of the duendes. As he's realized and that he's standing on the edge of that bridge, he decides that he really wants to run, but his body betrayed him and he could not move. He said that it almost felt as if his body was like asleep, and all of a sudden he just started walking towards the bottom of the bridge without him wanting to go there. He said that as he was getting closer, he could hear laughters and like people talking under the bridge. That's also the moment where he turned to look at where the chicken was standing in the middle of the bridge, and he saw where that chunky, chicken he wanted to eat turned into this little person with a hood on. That this little duende was now looking at him, just laughing at the fact that they tricked him. For a moment, the guy was able to move his body by himself, like it wasn't asleep, it wasn't being controlled. He put his arm out and started praying, just saying prayers over and over and over again. After that, he remembers saying to himself, God, if my body is to be with these demons, at least let my soul go with you. In that moment, he heard where all these duendes started screaming almost like if they were in agony and pain. He remembers these duendes going to him, trying to attack him, but he regained full control of his body and he started running away from that bridge. He almost felt like he had blacked out. The next day in the morning when he woke up, he thought that everything that had happened to him the night before was a dream. However, he started feeling a lot of pain near his ankles. When he looked down, he had a lot of scratch marks and he was still bleeding from his ankles. Apparently, this duendes did try attacking him, but he managed to get away. When he finally got up and started walking out, there was literally a trail of blood from him running home and a lot of like chicken feathers all over the place. He did continue walking until he realized that that blood trail was gonna end up at El Puente de los Duendes, at the bridge of the duendes. I would have never left my house after that, because what the hell? Also, the fact that this is like the only story that we've heard from someone who has gotten away from them there, and because of that people refuse to go to this bridge, is so crazy. But what do you guys think? I feel like this is a lot of our biggest fears for people who like drive in the middle of the night, but more specifically for trailer drivers. So this guy said that this happened to him a few years ago when he was driving a trailer, and at the time he did have a partner with him. He said that they would typically drive at night and that they would take turns, and the roads that they would be in did not have a lot of people driving back and forth on. He does admit that there were some nights where like he would be driving but he would be very tired, but he knew that his partner was also extremely tired, so they would try to keep themselves awake and just try to be safe on the road. So there was one night where he was driving, his partner was actually sitting next to him. He just wanted to make sure that they both stayed awake, and he admits that the sound of the trailer on the lonely road and the radio started mixing in with themselves, and that his partner was really fighting to sleep, and he just told him, hey, you should go to bed, like just go to sleep, you need to get some rest. He also remembers thinking to himself in that moment, like, fuck, I'm also just as sleepy as he is, like how am I supposed to continue on? It was there that he saw something. Figure appeared in his window as he's driving, but he couldn't make out any facial features. It almost looked like it had a hood on. What he was able to see was that the thing, like the eyes were glowing. They were really bright. He said that this figure starts talking to him in a very firm voice and says, keep driving, don't stop the trailer. Keep driving, don't stop the trailer. His heart started beating so fast and he started thinking, what is this thing? Who is this person? And why do I want to listen to him? And that he was listening to him. He just kept going and he wasn't stopping the trailer. Then all of a sudden, his partner who had been asleep next to him woke up, screams at him, like screams his name and points in front of them on the road. He was about to go straight when the road was turning into a curve. He did say that he hit the brakes really hard and he thought that they were gonna crash, but thankfully they didn't. And when the trailer completely stopped, he told his partner about the figure that was at his window talking to him and how for some reason he was listening. They did end up continuing on the road, but only for a few miles because they ended up at this really small town where there was a gas station and there was a spot where they could park the trailer. Some guy from that town ended up coming up to them and they started talking and told him that something weird happened on the road. And the guy literally tells them that there is a curve up ahead where a lot of people have lost their lives and that the people who have crashed but didn't end up passing away have claims that some negative spirit or energy had shown up in the window of their car that caused them to have those accidents. Honestly, I thought the story was gonna be like, oh, I was tired, I hallucinated, like, yeah, we need to stop and get some rest. Other people have crashed there, so like, can you imagine? Not only was he tired, but like an apparition basically almost made him crash and possibly pass away. There's other people who believe that it could be somebody who crashed there and now for some reason shows up and tries to do the same thing to others. Anyway, what do you guys think that is?
এই বয়সে আমার তিনটা বউ মরে গেল, তাও আবার 1 বছরের মধ্যে। একটা বউরে আমি বাঁচাতে পারলাম না।
কেমনে বাঁচবো? নাম কি? বাঁচে না বেগম। আরে যে তার নামের মধ্যে বাইচে থাকে না, এ জিন্দেগি করে কেমনে বাঁচবো ভাই?
এই শয়তান গোজালা একটু শান্তি মতো মরতে পারলাম না আমি।
কি মাইয়ারে পেটে ধরছিলাম আমি
কি করব? আমি তো তিনবার মরতে গেছিলাম। আল্লাহ আমারে মরণের ভিসাটা বন্ধ করে থুয়ে দিছে, আমারে নেয়ও না। তুই আরেকটা বিয়ে কর।
আপনার গ্রামে কি ভালো মাইয়া আছে?
ও খাউরা
মাসে মাসে তার বউ যায় মরি, ও মরি। আর পাগলা জাকলা খুঁজবে এখন আরেকটা পরি।
এই বাড়িতে 2টা মেয়ে আছে, দেখে তো আমি একটু মনে হচ্ছে খোঁজ নেব।
আপনারা কারে খুঁজেন?
আমরা লোক সরকারি কাজে আসছি।
আমি স্বপ্ন দেখছি অনেক খারাপ।
এলাকার মানুষজন কয় উড়ি নাকি পাগল।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম ডাক্তার সাহেব।
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। দুটো টান দেন।
কিছু কিছু সময় বদলাইতে হয়।
ভালোবাসাটা দিলাও না, ভালোবাসাটা নিলাও না।
তুই হলো ছোট পাগল, আমি হলাম বড় পাগল।
আলো